wellness. We're going to give you some ideas from our experience, but this is something we hope is an interactive dialogue. So we're hopeful that you'll contribute to the conversation, and we really value each of you who are here tonight. We want to just take this last few seconds here to really ground ourselves in this space. This is somewhat of a historic building, and to me, I feel like we're planting some seeds. And it's not just us up here on the panel or hanging on the bar, but all of us are planting those seeds of what we want to create here in Aspen together. So let's hold that collective intention that we do amplify that idea of creating a city of well-being, a city of wellness, and let each of our voices be heard in that conversation. Should we do it all? Yeah. Let's do it all.
That would mean you have to take your hand to your heart. You can do it. It's okay. Nothing's gonna happen.
You gotta expect to see what you go.
There's something that's up here.
All right, so take a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale out through your mouth high. 3 sounds of Om. Inhale.
Yeah.
One more. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Pretty amazing. We were hoping for maybe 20, and I'll still get 2 more. So that was incredible. Thank you again for being here. Let's start at the beginning, shall we? How about just a brief introduction about who you are, and we'll get into your entrepreneurial journey. But who are you, and what are you working on these days? In no particular order.
In no particular order.
All right, Jane, you go
This
first.
is actually fabulous because I came here 14 years ago to work at the Crystal Palace.
Whoa.
I worked back here and sing and dance in front of a lot of people, for real, and served a lot of food and had a lot of fun and really got to understand from what I would say it was the old school inner workings of this town, which was such a gift because I ski with them and that was amazing, and I'll leave it at that, but that's what got me here with this place and theater and community and coming together and joy. Well, what am I working on? I'm really, really, really blessed to own the Shakti Shala, which is a place for community and for all of you to spend more time in if you'd like, but a place that I would hope in the downtown core will continue to elevate consciousness and entrepreneurship and what Aspen just radiates. So that's what that place is. So yeah.
My name is Jess Ewert. I've been in the Valley for almost 2.5 years. I came from Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is a very different place, in good ways and bad, from Aspen, Colorado. But I fell in love with Aspen in 2009. That was my first visit here, and I literally cried tears leaving. Not tears of joy, but tears of like spoiled rotten, just like not happy I had to go home. And I set an intention that I would live here one day, and now I do. And it's the most incredible place on earth, and I love it, and I wouldn't change a thing. And I met Jane within a week of moving here. I moved cross country in a U-Haul with my mother-in-law riding shotgun, who was helping me move, which led to I couldn't stand up straight after spending 3 days in the U-Haul with her. And so I couldn't practice yoga, which I've been a teacher for probably about a decade. And I saw this yoga studio on the stalls, and I saw a woman with a black lab, and the black lab looked just like my dog that had passed away maybe a year before. So I actually noticed the dog, Trooper. And then I noticed the woman, Jane, and we met, I mean, like I said, a week after I moved here, and we've been inseparable, working on projects ever since, and I met Gina very shortly thereafter. And I think Aspen is just a place where you are magnetically drawn to and also attracted. You also will attract the people that you're meant to meet and know. And I cannot say that I've met a single person here that I don't feel absolutely destined to know on a very intimate, like very connected level. It's just a high vibe place. And now I'm trying to figure out what to do with all of these connections. That's what I'm doing. She makes magic every day.
That's true, that's true. I am humbled and honored to be on a panel with these two ladies. I should have actually like sat in between them because they're like these Siamese twins that are almost inseparable.
You hold hands on that.
So many amazing things. You just want to be in on it. But I'm Gina Murdoch, and I started the Aspen Yoga Society about 6 years ago, which is really an organization meant to unite the community using yoga as kind of the tool or the magnet. So we are all yogis, and I think we're passionate about that practice, but that is just one aspect of who we are. But it does, for me, it's part of my life in a sense. It's not just the practice on the mat, it's very much about taking the practice and the things that I learned on the mat, off the mat. And so since then, when I started the Yoga Society, which was about, for me, really creating community. I didn't know anybody here when I moved here, and I felt kind of lonely and isolated, and I'm not that kind of person to hang out in that state very long. So I started creating reasons for people to come together, and then I made friends. Yay! Yay! And now it's gotten way more fun to live here in the last 6 years, and I've gotten involved in many things. One thing that my husband and I co-sponsored the Mind, Body, Spirit series at the Aspen Institute. So the Aspen Institute is a place that really inspired me, this Aspen idea. When I heard about that, I thought for sure that it needed to be exploited in a way that was really beneficial to the town. So how can we tell that story, or how can we reinvigorate the Aspen idea? That's something that really fires me up. And so we started that series a couple of years ago. We hosted Deepak and Goldie Hawn and Marianne Williamson, and really amazing, inspiring speakers. And that kind of created the City of Wellbeing Initiative, which is something I worked on for about a year with a great team, including these ladies, Skippy, I don't know, a great team of people that are volunteering to create that mission and vision of elevating the idea of well-being in Aspen and in this valley. So that's another wonderful thing. And then a year ago, we also created the Aspen Center for Living Peace. And that's located at the Aspen Chapel, and we wanted to create a space for people to convene that wasn't religious, but that had some kind of spiritual, or I don't even know if that's too woo-woo, but I mean, that really is what it is, about a spiritual kind of gathering space so that we can connect on a higher, deeper level as beings, because that's why we're here, right? I mean, we spend so much time doing things that really aren't the essence of who we are. So we're trying to create those opportunities for people to connect on a deeper level, on a heart level, on that level of like, namaste, the light in me speaks and honors the light in you. That's where we're at. Probably all of us, but I don't want to speak for you too. But that's where I'm at, and it's so wonderful to be here. Question?
Yeah, there was a TV show today. It was aired on Grassroots, the Institute, and I think it was your, what you just spoke about.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if that will be replayed, because I know it's
question.
Yep.
I'm on the
I
website.
saw it replayed, yeah.
There you go.
Yes is the answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like to say yes a lot.
Right. I'm gonna ask a favor, somebody in the back to, prop that door open for us a little bit. Please, thank you. Please, so again, this is sort of a meeting of the minds of Aspen entrepreneurs and the wellness community. And we hope this will be the first in a series. So we want to talk about sort of core definitions at first. We want to talk about sort of your entrepreneurial journey and what matters and mistakes made and how can people avoid those mistakes, best practices, etc. But let's talk about, at the beginning, defining wellness. Everybody's got their own definition, and I think that's probably a good thing ultimately. Gina, you want to start with yours? When we talked previously, you said your definition changes from day to day, which I like. But what you mentioned specifically was the Gallup Wellbeing Index, and the sense of purpose was the #1 thing that the folks mentioned beyond physical well-being.
I know, you did a great job.
I paid attention.
I'd be curious, just yell out a few words when I say the word well-being. What does that mean to you guys? Just popcorn style. Any things that come up for you guys? Happiness,
Balance.
vitality, balance,
Right.
purpose,
Strength,
strength, nothing stress,
nothing's bothering me.
nothing's bothering you.
Yeah. Intimacy, connection.
Seriously, I agree. So that's
Anything you want to specifically say for your definition?
yeah. I mean, I think it's basically what you said that I shared with you yesterday. That I've learned recently is so much about well-being is having a sense of purpose, and I wouldn't have thought that before until I had my own experience of being a little bit off track and not feeling 100% stoked because I was sort of like waking up and I wasn't sure what I was gonna do, and I didn't realize how much that I was identified with what I did for a living. And so until I started creating more activities, I felt sort of a lack of well-being in my own life. And so that experience made me realize that having a sense of purpose, or like why you wake up in the morning, and does it sort of spark and light you up? To me, that's really so much about being well. The definition in the dictionary of well-being is being happy, healthy, and prosperous. And I think the happy and healthy part is great. Prosperous, I feel like it's something subjective. It's like, when you make over $70,000 a year, your happiness doesn't go up statistically. So, I mean, maybe that's a lot of money for some people in this room, maybe it's nothing for some people in this room, but the fact is that money doesn't buy happiness, but we spend a hell of a lot of time thinking about how we can make money. And I think that we're missing the big, broader picture, which if any of you were at our talk we did on Friday with the Blue Zones, it's like it's so much about community, it's so much about being connected, it's so much about what you do, like what is your heart telling you to do. So I don't know if that's very succinct, but that's
It's
how.
absolutely not, but it doesn't matter because it's your definition.
That's right.
So Jane, I'm going to come to you because you said to me that you actually don't care for the word well-being or wellness. And I think that's fair. So you mentioned radiance and vitality specifically. Why is that a better word or phrase?
Well, I just want to say that I don't want to discount well-being because I'm on that project and I think it's really incredibly important for 1,000 reasons. But being in Aspen and living in Aspen, and I'm really interested in our community, but I'm interested in why people come here too. And there's a glow or there's a vibration, forgive my yoga speak, but I'm going to do that a few times tonight, that excites me about radiance, that for me allows you all to feel like you're part of it. And if somebody were to look at you and in your eyes and say, oh my God, I see this vibrant, amazing, radiant glow, like that's exciting and you're probably gonna wanna connect, and then we connect and now 7 other people connect. And to me, that's community, and to me, that is a well community. And that is, I guess for me, Aspen seemed like a place that radiance was, I'm just gonna say this, like the bottom line of what's possible. And I'm not saying that everybody has to do that, but knowing that that's possible and knowing that we're all capable of being completely radiant beings and in our power just by loving ourselves and just by loving the people that we're around and just by loving where we live, that is so exciting to me. So that's where I started arguing nicely.
Can I ask the audience though to just respond?
Sure.
Sorry, I like the interactive thing.
Yep.
But like moderator. Raise your hand if you feel like a sense of radiance, and don't be shy. Like if you don't, we're going to talk about that too. So, and does that word resonate with you, or is it more like feminine or masculine or very? Oh.
No.
Well, I'm just curious. I think that's a beautiful definition, and it is something that hopefully we can talk a little bit more about.
I'm going to put Jerry on the spot. What's your definition of wellness here?
My definition?
Yeah.
Happy wife.
Well, let me start off.
Please.
When I ask someone, a scale of 1 to 10, what are you?
Oh, a radiance level?
1 to 10.
9.
9. 8. 7.
8.
Okay. 32. Well-being is something that we all know within a second how we are. It's our own sort of sense of connection with ourselves. And it's something that we don't need people to tell us about it. We all know it. We just need to give more attention to it. And it's indescribable. You know, it's just a feeling of how you are in the world. And that feeling that you have. And when you're sort of in the 8, 9, 10 level,
That's a
you
great.
know you've got it.
Yeah.
You know it's somewhere below that number, you don't have it.
Right.
You wanna get it.
Thank you.
V2s and V's out there?
So let's make sure we get to our other panelists here. So Jess, you said having the energy and spiritual and mental ability to do things you want to do. You want to expand on that?
I think that the crux of that is working beyond either perceived or real limitations. And for the most part, I think most limitations are perceived. I think most of them are not real. I think that we create our own limitations based on our belief systems. And so to kind of expand on what Jerry was saying, because I completely agree, I think it is like an innate sense. And he's talking about something intrinsic, and Gene is talking about something intrinsic, and Jane's saying the same thing. This is an internally sourced place. And so I think that where people fall down at wellness, when they fall down at anything that they're ambitious about or want in their life and they feel like they can't get it, it's because they're looking outside themselves and they're seeing a limit and a perception that the reason I'm not whatever it is because of forces and factors that I can't control. And the truth is, I mean, in terms of being a human being and existing, is that you pretty much can't control anything external. I mean, it's all beyond your control. And if you think that it isn't, you're just deluded. Maybe happily, you know, or comfortably, but it is a delusion. And so when we start to accept that reality and we go inside where we get everything, then we're completely limitless. There's the endless potentiality for whatever it is that we want to do. And so I think that well-being is not just how you feel, but also that knowledge, not a belief, but like just knowing that anything you're going to get in this life or in this incarnation is going to be coming from within yourself.
Thanks.
That was great.
Good. So, all right, so with that defined, so now we have wellness defined, sort of. Right, everybody's got their own definition, and that's a good thing. But let's swing back to the entrepreneurial journey. Let's talk about your first entrepreneurial memory and the role your parents or your early life played in that journey. Jess, we can start with you. One of the first things we talked about was, well, I really thought this was interesting, that your parents' workaday lives, 40 hours, 50 hours a week, really dissuaded you from following in their footsteps.
Totally. Because our lives were, our vacations, whether or not, you know, we got new shoes or hand-me-downs were completely dictated by my parents' perception. First of all, when I think about abundance or my relationship with money and finances, growing up hearing we can't afford that, we can't do this, we have to wait until my paycheck comes, and this type of language that, you know, actually science is starting to prove that stuff gets imprinted on children. And you start to actually create belief systems around money and around your own potential to make it or to not have it or whatever it is, based on your parents' relationship with money. So while I wasn't obviously closely examining that as a child, as I got to be an adult, I really did look at that and realized how it influenced me. And the way it influenced me is I thought, well, if my parents both have good jobs and stability, and they both had careers that were with the same, my dad's a school teacher, he's retired now. My mother was a histologist with a pathology group she's not retired yet, she retires next year, and is still kind of living that belief system. I just knew I didn't want it. It just seemed really limiting. It seemed that even though my parents wanted to give us things, they wanted to do things with us and spend time with us, the answer would often be no, because of some external entity that was defining our reality and our experience. And so looking at that made it very simple, just be like, not that. I don't know what's on the other side of that or what my other options are, but that is no longer an option. And so that was my introduction to the idea of, okay, how can I solve this problem? Jane will tell you, I ask that question a lot. I'm like a big problem solver. So how can I not do that? And then it just became about doing work that I'm passionate about. If I love something or enjoy something, I will sell the heck out of it. I can do it. I will make it succeed. If I don't believe in it, it's not going to happen. And my first entrepreneurial experience, is that where we're going from here? Or?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
You mentioned a little crazy. I have not heard this one yet, but your first entrepreneurial experience is you wrote a 40-page business plan.
Yeah. So I was a Bachelor of Business. I'd never written one before. I was a BBA, that's a Bachelor of Business Administration student at a very podunk state school in Cookeville, Tennessee. And that school just happened to have a satellite campus called the Appalachian Center for Crafts in Smithville, Tennessee, which is where people would come, not just from all over the country, but from all over the world to study textiles and glass blowing and metal smithing and jewelry and just, it's the weirdest thing. I don't know if you've ever been to Middle Tennessee. I will not recommend that you go because I don't think that it's going to be a great experience. But if you want some cultural diversity, it's different. But all of these just enlightened artistic types were being drawn to this little satellite campus. So I took an elective class. I took glass blowing, and I'm terrible at glass blowing. I suck at it. But I really liked the people that were there, and I got to be friends with one of the glass blowers who wanted to open a studio. And he said, I need my dad to like co-sign or underwrite this loan that we're going to get, and I have to have a business plan written in order to do it. And he's like, you kind of know business, sort of. I was like, yeah, I guess so. And he's like, can you write a business plan? So I just went to the school library and pulled like all the business plans I could find, these templates, because this is like 1999. A little different than now. And I wrote a 40-page business plan and gave it to him, and he gave it to his dad, and they gave him $250,000, and we picked a city and we moved there and we opened a glass blowing studio, and it's still in business. That was the first one.
And Jane, you have a good story about the Jungle Book, I believe.
I do have a story about Jungle Book. I mean, I guess I come from a family where my parents could not understand me ever. We probably relate, like here we are. My dad is an amazing businessman, and he's an investment banker, and he does not understand how yoga and business really align. We're still working on that, because I'm not quite sure what I get. So, anyway, my dad always just told me, he's like, just do what isn't possible. And it was amazing to even just have that like underlying, not even language support, and I just offer that to you guys because our generation, as I imagine a lot of us are parents, are going to be like, that was such an unbelievable message, like parent message, do what isn't possible, you can do it, and that was amazing. So anyway, I moved to town, worked at the Crystal Palace, everybody skied, and it was so awesome, and all we did all day was ski and come to work at night. And that was really neat, but that got boring really fast, and so then I was like, what else should I do? And so then I'm like, there's no theater in the valley, and not really. Theater Aspen was Aspen Theater in the Park at the time, and it was just still beginning to figure itself out. And so I'm like, I'll go work for them, and that'll be my day job. And I spent like one day in the office, and I was like, this is really boring. Like everything's done, and there's nothing getting done. And I'm not judging them at all, but I was just like, this is really boring, and I can't do this for more than 1 minute. So then I like had this moment of like, well, there could be a lot of kids singing and dancing and laughing, and they're doing that, but they're not doing that lit up, and because nobody's lit up by what they're doing, so I quit like almost immediately, and then Theater Aspen turned into Aspen Theater in the Park turned into this amazing company, and I'm so excited for that. But I went down Valley and I like hung up a sign that said the Jungle Book auditions, and Beth is here, and she was kind of part of that. She was like, do it. Like, she wasn't quite in it yet, but like a lot of people were like, do it, and I hung up a bunch of signs that said we're going to do the Jungle Book, and I didn't have any expenses or anything, and I rented space from the middle school, and like 30 kids, 25 kids just auditioned and like sang happy birthday to me, and all of a sudden, I was like, whoa, and from like Mowgli and you know, the bare necessities, we started a pretty amazing theater company. It was just about like what I was passionate about and like what wasn't out there, and it was that simple. And like one step and the other step and the other step, and all of a sudden, like the community really formed behind something very silly, but was really fabulous for a long time. And that was my entrepreneurial experience. Posters.
Gina, what were some of the formative memories that got you to thinking that you could do whatever the hell you wanted to do?
I feel like this is a trap because we had a little pre-interview.
That's definitely not a trap.
And that was 2 days ago, and I was like, well, until today, I didn't think I was an entrepreneur. And so I'm like, well, but maybe I am.
Like, but except for the fact that you started 4 organizations.
And then you were like, no, I think you are. Okay, great, because I always admire entrepreneurs. I thought they're the greatest, coolest. You're an amazing entrepreneur. And so thank you for pointing that out. It's like my life got shifted in a great way. So don't even, like, if you don't think you are, you probably are. I think we all are.
You definitely are.
Yeah, you are.
I think if you take something from an idea to execution, you're not.
Yeah, it's reminding me, I don't know if this is funny for you guys, but I went to, I was pitching this idea to like kind of a big wave organization, and they're like, so you think you're a social venture? Like me and my friend were all dressed up, and we were like, yeah, yeah, and then like both of us were like, that was one of the things I didn't mention that
Talk
I
about a trap.
did for Virgin Unite, which was an amazing experience. I didn't even mention that, but that was really funny because like I didn't have any clue what I was doing any of the times I did anything that I've done pretty much so far. And that's been
For the
kind of,
record, nobody does.
yeah, and I guess that's true because you see people and you're like, wow, they got their shit together, but it's like mostly not. Like we're all as we know, and it's like that whole idea of fix it or make it, which I mean, I'm feeling like I'm a pretty authentic person, but like sometimes I'm just like, yeah. So I started this organization, and really the reason I started Aspen Yoga Society was because I didn't want to say like Gina Murdoch's doing this and Gina Murdoch's doing that, but that's all it was. It was just me. And I was like, I wanted to be Aspen Yoga Society. I was like, that sounds official. And so I did, and then people were like, well, Aspen Yoga Society's doing that. I'm like, what is that? Oh, that's Gina Murdoch. But like, it just made it sound more official, cool, I thought. And so I forgot the question, but it was like,
Me too.
this idea of, oh, here's what I want to say, because it's really about filling a need, right? I shared with you guys my heartbreak story. When I moved here, I didn't know anybody. I felt like lonely and isolated, and I was like, I don't like feeling that way, so I'm going to create something that's a vehicle for me to meet people. And I did, and then it became something that is still around, and hopefully will continue to be around and be something that serves other people. So it's really born out of a need and recognizing that need and then doing something about it. Because I could have just like stayed home and cried. I could go shopping and just do manicures and stuff, but I was like, wait, I'm gonna do something. So yeah, it's like you just decide, and then it's super fun if you have awesome friends.
But what if like you can't identify the need, and like that's really intimidating? Like what if you just have a passion? I think that's a valuable question. What if there's not a need?
Oh, well, I mean,
More.
to me, I think it's a need or a passion. I guess it's the same thing, right? Because purpose is so important for well-being, right? And so if you have a passion, but it's not being like watered, in a sense, then that's
Like an outside need all the time. Just be like a radiant heart.
okay. It seems like we're also different. We purpose these things. So great, right? Need.
I don't think my radiant nerd. Totally. Inspired. Fabulous.
That's right. So amazing. We're all like, yes, yes, and you help us like do this like spreadsheet.
So we can kind of stick with that.
Good idea.
That my next question is what drives you? What is your guiding light, and what are the quotes perhaps that serve as guiding light for each of you? And Gina, we can kind of continue the discussion that you say heartfelt joy is my compass.
Yeah, I made that up. If you guys want to quote me, heartfelt joy is my compass. You know, it's like I was thinking about it, where it's like I always thought I should be doing different things, and if you guys are going around thinking, well, I should do this, it's like we want to do what lights us up, right? And so that was my little epiphany, a little light bulb that went off. It was like heartfelt joy is my compass. That's where I'm going to go. It's like when I feel that, I'm going to go in that direction. When I don't feel it, I'm going to go away from it. And that's how I navigate my life, and it's become really awesome. It's like looking for those opportunities. It's like these guys said, do you want to do a panel? And I said, yeah, that sounds fun. Some people ask me to do stuff, and I'm like, no. So it's not that complicated to start to understand that when you put your hand on your heart, or if that's too weird, just kind of take a moment and check in. It's like, does that bring you joy, or does that bring you sort of like a feeling of constriction or weight? And to me, that's just been like an amazing epiphany, because I think for a long time I was thinking that I was supposed to do certain things, because we're conditioned to think that way since we're little kids. It's like, get married and have kids, or you're a princess, or all this crap, and we take it all in, and we don't realize how programmed we are as beings. So somebody asks you to do something, and it seems like, well, I should do that, and then you do, and then you start killing yourself very, very slowly, and you become this little shell of who you really are. So that's why this idea of radiance, and it's like, it shows. I think people who are on purpose, or like living their path, or dharmic kind of calling, you sense a sense of aliveness and vitality that's, like, it's visible, it's tangible, and then you want to be around people like that. It's attractive.
Well, I think that's where it gets so exciting, and Dave, I don't mean to interrupt, except for the fact that I felt in your heart like a tremendous passion for it. That's why we're all here, because then we can exchange that passion and hold each other to it. And that's really, really important for me, at least for community, is that you're surrounded by people who, like, I think it's really intimidating to say, to feel like I have to be on purpose. What if I don't know what the hell my purpose is? And even if I do, I might forget tomorrow. Like, truly, you really easily can forget, because stuff comes your way, and it's like, damn, I don't even know if that's my purpose anymore. This is really hard.
Yeah.
For real.
For you, Jean, but not for.
Damn, I mean, I'm gonna like not, this is damn hard. But then to like have people come together like this and look and really share space and say, well, this was your purpose yesterday, like I'm fired up by this, and I'm sitting here in the seat of not knowing my purpose. Can you reflect what is great about me? Like, then all of a sudden we have a really rad community, and I think that's why we're all here. Thumbs up.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And in our last event, we had Chris Davenport, Chris Klug, and Gretchen Bleiler. And one of Gretchen's stories was at the X Games, she was a favorite for the gold. And she had this crazy trick that she was putting, she had been able to land in practice, but had not been able to land in competition. Putting all this pressure on herself, was unable to perform for the first, I think, of the 3 runs, first 2 runs, she didn't land it. And then finally on the 3rd run, she decided to just function from an area of joy, and just sitting at the top of the run and going, I grew up skiing buttermilk over here, and the little girl that I was would be so proud of me right now, regardless if I win this or not. And she just sort of relaxed and focused on the joy, and she won the gold medal because she decided to make that conscious choice. And so I feel like that's exactly what we're talking about here. Jane, you mentioned one of your quotes from Marianne Williams is, biggest fear is not what we can't do, but what we're capable of.
Yeah, it's our light, not our darkness, that freaks us out. You guys, I don't know, maybe that quote or not, but our capacity and being willing to step into it, and the unknown, and finding a place. And I think this will move our conversation a little bit too, like inside yourself, that it doesn't, well, for me it's a feeling, I don't know what it is for all of you, but it's some sort of like litmus test of clarity that inside you flip and know. And if you don't, like, you have friends around you that can bring you to that place, and then you have a practice and you have tools to get you into a feeling. It has nothing to do with the head of like, I got this. And when you say you got this, it's all the unknown that is terrifying. Because when we know, we know. And it's that moment of whether it's a place to return to, whether it's a place you haven't gotten to yet, whether it's friends, whatever it is, I find it's that capacity that is a lot of work to step into, and completely interesting.
Jess, you went a direction I didn't expect, but I respect. I love it. It's how rare it is to be a sentient human being. To take stock, to gain perspective. One of the links you sent me was a New Wave philosopher, also known as Louis C.K. Why did you send me that link?
Okay, well, to clarify, I also sent him a Buddhist quote and a Bill Bryson quote, but then Louis C.K. it's a bit, it's kind of floating around out there. It's an interview that was kind of Brian about why he doesn't let his children use cell phones. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, it's pretty viral, and it's amazing because the crux of what he gets to, and of course it's so funny the way he presents it, and I think humor is like the best vehicle for getting to reality, the people and really touching them in a way that feels accessible. You know, we need to laugh. But what he's getting at is that we are just not comfortable being with ourselves, sitting with ourselves, being alone with ourselves. I mean, we will do almost anything but that. And I think that's why meditation is starting to take off, as people are recognizing this illness of constantly having to be distracted or being entertained or being whatever it is except being. And so he does this incredibly funny piece about like sitting in his car and weeping over a Bruce Springsteen song that comes on over the radio and just feeling what he's describing is almost like the pointlessness of existence. But what I think what he's really getting at is the existential dilemma that we can either confront or we can avoid the rest of our lives. And if you avoid it the rest of your life, I think you're missing this huge opportunity. So the other quote I sent was by Bill Bryson. And it was about, and I will sum it up not nearly as funny or eloquently as he wrote it, but it's really long, is that in order for you to even be sitting here in a human form, every ancestor for 3.5 billion years was not stomped, rebuffed from a mate, like they all reproduced, they all survived long enough to give that little like DNA, that genetic charge to the next lineage, and then here you are. And so that is a perspective I like to visit a lot when I'm starting to think about purpose, because I have a teacher, and you know Suhas, Sugar. He works at the Chopra Center, and he was my Ayurvedic teacher. He said, you should ask yourself every single day, why am I here? Why do I exist? And not in this heavy, like, intellectual, burdensome way, but what the hell else are you going to talk about? Are you going to talk about the election endlessly? Are you going to talk about Kardashians? Are you going to talk about, like, what are you going to worry about? You exist. It's profound. It's amazing. And it's, like, so rare. You can't even conceive of how inconceivable it is that you're even here. So if you don't stop and ask why, and at least put the time and effort into just kind of investigating that, it's just, you know, you're kind of shunning this incredible gift. So instead of thinking about all the existential just like rabbit holes that we all go down once in a while, have a kid. That'll shove you down an existential rabbit hole. The first time you buy life insurance so that when you die, your child will be provided for. That shut me down for like 3 months when I signed my life insurance policy. Seriously, that happens to you. But then once you get past all of that, you're like, oh, well, it's actually an opportunity. What else? What's my other option? I exist. It's incredible. Like, do something, and don't let any other limitations stop you. You've beaten every freaking odd there is to even arrive. So go for it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sorry.
Well said. That's why we're here.
Genius.
Thank God. Quick question: is the email list still circulating? If not, would somebody please circulate it? Maybe somebody got lost in all the mindfulness.
Did you guys all pay your $100 fee?
Yeah, right. That'd be nice. Yeah. We are looking for sponsors, but. So we're going to have a few more questions and a bit of a discussion around sort of best practices and what drives you and lessons learned, et cetera. And then we'll get into sort of the larger discussion of what works, what this community should be focusing on, and how we can help continue to make this an amazing place and a more amazing place.
I think we should do that.
We'll get there, I promise. So, but some of these folks came to understand what makes you guys tick. So we have a few more minutes on that. Jane, you said something that was rather funny to me. And my question ultimately is, how do you guys set yourself up for success on a daily basis? We talked about morning routines. We talked about we talked about a lot of things. I swear I'll be gentle. Jane, what you said was that there's some sex magic involved.
We knew it was going to get interesting at some point.
So, but it was particularly around a client meeting. And I love the fact, so, bear with me. So, but I love the phrase, and so why? Why and how?
Okay. Well, it's gonna be boring compared to that title, but the truth is, I find, like, to put yourself in the situation of the people that you're gonna be meeting with, and like, what is sexy? And sexy doesn't have to actually be sexual. Like, what is sexy? What is hot? What is fun? What turns people on? What lights them up? What lights you up? And when you're in that state, like, I think it's very generative. So my morning practice beyond, like, absolutely meditating and being quiet and not answering the phone for real in the morning is very important to me because I'm really on a lot, is it, and a practice of dropping into my body, because there's a pretty big well of wisdom there, and we can have that conversation later if you want, but it's to set the scene, and I think that's where you're headed and what was interesting, and I come from a theater background, and I come from a background of like, what story would we possibly want to tell today? And what story would we want to tell for this season, especially in this town? So I really try to figure out what's interesting to me, because if I'm not lit up, how the hell is the person I'm going to be talking to going to be lit up? That's going to be really boring. And then, like, this is where the sex magic comes in. I mean, and I mean movie magic. That's the word. That's what I mean, sex. Like, what am I going to wear? What makes me feel a little bit turned on and excited about my life? And where do I want to do this? Do I want to do this skinning, or do I want to do this in Victoria's, or do I want to do this in the St. Regis, or do I want to like play in my shala, you know, in the shala that a million people contribute to? I don't need to call it mine, but like for that moment, like, where's my lair of sorts? And how can I be the lioness of the situation? And I challenge you to really play with that, because one, it's really fun. And I've got this whole costume closet of clothes that is really fabulous. And life is short. And I mean, life is short. And I don't get this day back. And so I'm like, what do I want to play with today? And how can I use my genius of sitting in my own heart to play with the person I'm with? Because that's how you connect, in my opinion. Why would I want to do anything else other than talk about the fact that, like, okay, let's create. And so let's create a scene that might be kind of fun to play. And if I'm creating a scene that I want to win anyway, then it has to be a scene anyway in a movie. So that's my play.
And I thought in particular it was great that you met a client for champagne at Victoria's to celebrate your pending victory.
Before there was victory.
And we won.
That was great. And Jess is involved in that.
Yeah.
I thought that was
I
fantastic.
had a cowboy hat on, and Jess was, I don't remember what you were wearing that day.
Something.
She was much simpler, and just she made sure that they understood that we were trustworthy.
So we can talk about Gina and Jess. Talk about maybe your either one. Dealer's choice, morning routine, and or how do you set yourself up for success?
Well, I'll talk about my routine, but it's a little different than what I told you.
Okay.
But what I gave them was like my Ayurvedic routine. I practice Ayurvedic medicine, which is Indian, so that's like very ritualistic. But I'll tell you one of my favorite routines that we just didn't get into in the morning is I read an article, it's probably been about 5 years, and it said something about easing children into their day. Because we start our days just like feet to the ground, running, going to our next appointment, getting dressed, like throwing it all together. And I happen to be a mom, and I have a 10-year-old, so I've been doing this with her for a few years. But I go in, sometimes I'm actually in her room because I sleep in her bed half the time. I just fall asleep in there. Or I get lonely in the middle of the night for her being a kid, and I go crawl in there. I'm like super sappy, all crying, so then ignore it. But if I'm not already in there, I go in there in the morning, and I try to just like kind of almost hug her awake. I know that sounds like so cheesy, but it does have to do with this concept of being so acutely aware of the passing of time. And instead of mourning it and grieving it and waiting until I'm 50, I'm almost 40. So waiting until I'm 50 and looking back and going, oh, she's 21 now and that's past. I actually really try to be present with my kid. And in the morning is such a special time for us. It's just the two of us. She's waking up. She tells me what she dreamt, which is always just like batshit crazy. It's the weirdest thing. It's dreams. And we have these little dogs running around, but we just have that sort of morning ritual. And right now, that is extremely important. And of course, it won't be, you know, in 5 years and 10 years, it'll be something different. But I guarantee that whatever I'm doing 5 or 10 years from now will be that seated in the present moment, because it's the only one we have.
The question of how do I set myself up for success?
And or morning routine or both.
they're like the same.
Dealer's choice.
Same.
Yep.
They're the same. So how you wake up in the morning, I try to set an intention for the day, and I think we all have a meditation practice, which we commit to in the morning mostly, and I would suggest that that's one thing that you can do that's just so rich and so beautiful, and it's something that seems maybe intimidating, but it's not that hard. There's a lot of apps and stuff, so we can talk about that. But one thing that's really been resonating with me recently, especially, is this idea of performing action without, what's the Bhagavad Gita, without regard to the outcome, basically. And it's a really tough lesson, and it's what you'll see in a lot of Buddhist teachings, in the Hindu teachings, in the yogic tradition. And I'm really, my intention is really to live into that. So it's very much about showing up with that integrity of what I'm seeking or my heart is telling me this is important to go do, but to really let go of the result, let go of the agenda of how it's going to turn out. And it creates this sense of mystery, and in the mystery is this magic. And so I've been walking around, I feel like I don't actually really smoke pot, you guys. I know it's crazy in Aspen, but I don't anymore. And I feel like I'm high all the time. And it's basically because I'm getting out of my head and like what I need to happen for me to be happy. It's a lot about what Jess was saying earlier. It's like we can so much reflect inward on what we need, and instead of making it have to be a certain way outside. Like if I get this job, or if this thing works out, or if these people like me, or if I show up in a way and they clap a lot, then I'm gonna feel validated and then I'm okay. Forget all that. It's like, I come here, I have an intention to be of service. We talked a little bit about this. It's like the morning routine is about asking that question, how can I be of service? And it's kind of like giving it up. If you believe in God or spirit or some higher thing, you can name that, but you don't even have to name that. It's about asking that question when you wake up in the morning, how can I be of service? And really letting go of the result of what you do, because you know you're showing up in your best, highest form. And when I talk about or think about what my purpose is because that's been coming up a lot, I used to really get stuck on that. I was like, I have no idea, and why did everyone else get a purpose and not me? And that sucked. And because I thought it was like a thing, like I'm a dancer, I'm an actor, or I'm a writer. And then I realized your purpose, at least for me, my purpose is showing up every moment in that highest form that I'm aware of and that I'm capable of in that moment. And so it's like a very moment by moment thing that I can see myself and be aware that if I'm showing up in that highest and best state that I know how at that time, I'm always doing my best. We are, even certain people are doing their best, frankly, right? I mean, there's a lot of freedom in just allowing people to be who they are, I guess. And so how I set myself up for success is really like trying my very best to let go of having that attachment to how it's going to look, because that's where the magic is, when you kind of put it out there, you put your heart into it, and you just like let it go, and you see what happens. And sometimes it's better than you thought, sometimes it sucks, and you're like, but you know, life is life, and you always get a chance to wake up and try again.
There's one thing I want to say though, is it sounds like I was very manipulative in like creating a scene, to be totally honest, but like to draw somebody out of them by being yourself and creating a scenario, to me seems really exciting. It doesn't seem manipulative, and I just want to talk about you guys. Like, we all have 1,000 different roles, and in all honesty, I mean, I say that's a lot in class. I'm not the most like connected Facebook or news person, and in fact, I'm probably the least most on the face of the planet. But I really try to approach life from a place of like what somebody else's behavior is like that's inside me, and I really try to own that. And my question to kind of our world community is more along the lines of, well, how can I put myself in that situation that would make me do that? Instead of, oh my God, like, can you believe that person did that? So it's a being of service and a really positive, like we're smart enough in our bodies here to manipulate really wonderfully. And so I want to just invite you to understand that. And it's not like movie, Hollywood manipulation. There's something, and if there's play in it, then it's really sustainable.
And I feel like as long as folks are true to themselves and authentic and transparent in the situation, it doesn't matter what you set up for yourself or for the situation, as long as they're true to themselves. I think it's fine. And I think just to echo some of what you're saying, Gina, I think is what we're trying to foster here, in addition to mindfulness and this culture of well-being in town, is this ethos of give first, and giving of yourself and your time and your efforts, perhaps your resources, to help your fellow folks succeed, regardless if they're entrepreneurs or just your friends or your neighbors. Just sit and listen, right? And rather than going into a situation and asking, what do you do, or what can you do for me? It's, how can I help you? Or what challenges are you facing? And the rising tide lifts all boats, right? So, all right. So you mentioned briefly the idea of a couple tools that you guys use, some meditation apps, anything of the sort, or books that you might recommend. And then again, we'll get into the larger community discussion of what we can achieve here. But let's do a quick shot of books or quotes or apps that you find useful that other folks might find useful.
Can I jump in on this really quick? Just because I do believe it's so important, and I talk about it mostly, but I think everyone needs to be sleeping more, deep, and like non-disrupted, deep sleep. And there's a lot of science behind that I won't bore you with, but I will tell you my tool for it, because that's probably more interesting, is, and we've started using this at our studio. We actually can come in and drop in for a hypnotherapy class. It's just an audio recording, but I've been using a hypnotherapy app that Andrew Johnson, he's a hypnotherapist that does the recording, to help kind of walk me into a state of deep sleep, because I imagine I'm not alone. In fact, I imagine I'm 100% in good company of people whose minds spin all the time, either with great ideas or great anxieties or great reflections or whatever. But you guys are laying in your beds at night at the same time I am, just like churning, and the wheels are turning. And so this app is, it's just called Relax Plus, and I am completely hooked. I never get, sometimes I don't even manage to stay awake until it starts counting down from 10. And after that, like, there's a whole other 30 minutes of positive suggestion, and you can choose what the topic is. I have a mild that I'm working on it, fear of flying, and a few other things. You can choose what you want the suggestion to be. And I've been sleeping, anyway, before I started that, probably about 8 to 9 hours a night, but now sleeping like 8 to 9, like, uninterrupted hours. Like, I fall asleep, I wake up, I barely moved, without sleeping pills, without wine. And sometimes wine, but most of it not wine. But highly recommend getting more sleep, and that's just an app that I use. And I think that if you can get into a deep, restful state of sleep, you're doing your body, your brain, your consciousness a very good favor. And in yoga, we think that when you're in deep, dreamless sleep, that your consciousness is actually tapped into something called yoga nidra, which is connecting to your source. So wherever the hell it was you were before you arrived inside your body, that it's almost like just a little like reach back to that place consciously, and it's a recharge. And so I hope that you sleep well, and if you not, give that a shot.
Thanks. One or two each from
I want to make this
Jan,
fast.
I'm like sensing, but it is late.
I'm trying to get, and some people want to sleep. Right now.
Yeah, exactly. I need to go to bed.
I love the book The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer and The Surrender Experiment. Those are two great books. They're not that big, and they're awesome. And the Deepak and Oprah meditations, awesome. You can buy that and listen to them all the time.
I have huge respect for what you guys do, and I go skinny. That's what I do. I get in my body. It's the only thing that I can sense any sort of center from.
Perfect.
All right.
All right.
All right, so from a place of understanding that the best entrepreneurs and the best ideas and solutions come from folks who are mindful, who have a sense of well-being, I want to open the discussion to the idea of how can we bring entrepreneurship and wellness together to make Aspen and the Roaring Fork Valley a better place, and how do we engage the rest of the community? I'm happy to open that up to you guys. That's where I'd like to start.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from people that come and why you came and what the interest is, and if there's a way we can serve in our capacity that what we're doing. And you're the moderator, sorry, I kind of.
No, it's fine. So it's all the above, right? I think you understand why we're here, and we're super grateful that you're here. We want to make sure that your needs are met as well. I think I see a question. Please. Yes, ma'am.
How do you feel,
or how do you approach the issue that is in the valley? And when I say the valley, I probably mean as far as Parachute, Gypsum, and up to Aspen, in terms of the inequality of income and the difficulty that a lot of people have, even if you've got a dream and a passion, you've got to have 6 jobs in addition to your dream and your passion to make it in a place like this. If you're young and you don't have an established career, and I guess I'm wondering, it all sounds nice, but there are a lot of people in the valley who are being, quote, left out.
Skippy, I'm actually gonna put you on point here.
How
Because,
can we all talk?
Yeah,
Yeah, good question, yeah.
because I know Skippy has a great answer because we've been thinking a lot about this. In terms of creating a sustainable middle class.
Yes, exactly.
So can you just define the question first is how do people rise above that, or how do they, what way is that?
My question is, how do these 3 lovely ladies feel about the income inequality that is in the valley? And it's really more than it's more than it.
Yeah, I mean, I think-
You don't know we should.
I'd like, do you mind if I rephrase just a little bit?
No,
Just-
no, go ahead, I'm not very articulate.
I mean, no, you're completely articulate. I just like for it to be a bit more positive than negative.
Good.
So, Mr. Messer.
Sure. Look, I mean, first let's recognize that it's a real challenge, right? The cost of living here is exceptionally high, but let's also recognize that we have the people sitting on the stage and many others in the audience who are able to overcome that. The message that we've been driving home is Aspen has long been known for ideas, and the Aspen idea that in the 21st century isn't a time that we move on to the Aspen solution. We solve our local problems and potentially national or international problems right here using the tool of entrepreneurship. In many ways, we've been opened up to the rest of the world with technology, and there are many limitations, as Sherry will tell you. But also, it's cultural, right? It's knowing that I can do this and seeing that my friend has done it and being willing to take the chance. And frankly, putting in the hard hours and having 3 jobs when you do it. God knows I'm in the middle of that. But how do we bind together? How do
I
we
lived in
collaborate?
Crescent Butte from 1972 to 1976, and I had 8, 10 jobs. It was amazing. I mean, and I was there 2 years and then left. And I tell you,
Can I say something to this just a little bit?
Hold on, just finish it up, please.
So I mean, I just had this general thought earlier, and kind of go, sure, but yesterday at this time, I was sitting in the caucuses, or the Democratic caucuses, and cheers to you guys, everyone who participated, and that's amazing. My thought was just in this year of derisiveness, division, when we're just being pulled apart, here in this room, City of Wellbeing, Aspen Entrepreneurs Network, the wellness community, friends, we are all being pulled together. And so much of what we can accomplish comes from being in this room and simply voting with our time and our actions and saying, you know what, fuck it, this is our community, we're gonna do something here. And it's not a concrete answer, but I do believe it's a real answer.
Why do you think I called on?
Yeah.
Yes.
One of the things I want to say about this, and it might not be super well received, because I recognize income inequality, it's a thing. But I also recognize that this is an amazing valley to live in. So I'll tell you where I was in 1976. I was being born. But I was being born in Mississippi. I'm from Oxford, and I grew up my childhood we were just poor. We just were. There's no other way to describe it. And I grew up literally barefoot in Mississippi, like playing in creeks and crawdads. Like, I don't even have many memories of my parents when I was a kid because they were working all the time. And I think that there's a potential for all of us as human beings to look on the lot that we're given. If you had told my mom, this kid that you just had is going to end up living in Aspen, Colorado, like running a yoga studio and doing all this stuff and sitting on a bar in Crystal Palace talking about entrepreneurship, she'd be like, yeah, right. So you have the life you have. You're born into what you're born into. But I think that it's disempowered for us to say that circumstances externally define our potentiality. And the truth is, I could go back to Mississippi right now with everything I have, all my job skills, all my connections, and I could be so flipping comfortable in Mississippi, which I'm not interested in, because the truth is, I don't know how much money or skills you have. Mississippi is a hot, humid, miserable place to be, so I'm here. But being in this valley is a choice and it's a privilege. I mean, some of us have to work a little harder than others to be here, but it's a choice. And I think that what we have to recognize is that we choose every single day, and we create every single day the reality that we have, and that we just don't need to waste our energy and our time kind of looking around for like what could someone else outside of this bubble that is my own existence do to make it better for me. I'm going to make it better for me or not. And that's just, and I absolutely have to know that that's the truth, because if I don't, I'm powerless. And so I think that the solution is, and I'm not talking about pointing fingers to people going, you're in this position because you chose these things, but instead to go to people and say, you are capable and powerful of choosing something else. If this isn't working, you can choose something different, and I will help you in any way I possibly can to raise you up. But I think that's a little bit better way. Thanks, Kathy. Yeah, that's amazing. I'm here for you. Yes. Right?
And so one of my favorite quotes is, the secret to happiness is freedom, and the secret to freedom is courage. Let's continue to open it up out here. How can we help?
I'll just throw this out. I moved here in November and kind of connected with your story, Gina, of I've been back and published a book 2 weeks ago. And it's called, shameless self-promotion here, it's called Fear Busters.
Oh, what?
Fear Busters. It's a little play off of Ghostbusters, and it's.
Are you the one
Here we
who's
are
gonna
in
be
the
at
Crystal Palace,
the,
right?
are you the one who's gonna be at Explorer,
No,
talking about that book?
no.
Or was written up the paper the first time?
No,
All right, please
I'm sorry.
Please continue.
but it's the idea that fear is programmed, and then how to unprogram it. You mentioned meditation. Fearbustersbook.com. There's meditation that you can download. So I've kind of been on that trail and put a tour group together just to go that. And all of that's happened in the short time that I've been here in Aspen since November. I was just thinking about that today. It's like, wow, I've done more out of the passion from freaking skiing every day than I have in the day job.
Awesome. Congrats.
Yeah.
Cool.
How can we help bring this message and continue to tackle problems that this valley needs? Good question.
I was just gonna say, you guys were talking about the lifting people up. My experience in this valley has been literally that building business is building community. You build community around your businesses. You build a culture that, you know, supports the business, supports the ideal of what you're getting through, whether it's wellness or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah, whatever it is, you know, people succeed in lifting up those people around you. And, you know, I think that in this valley, we're such a microcosm, but it also shows quickly, like somebody was saying, you know, the amount of people that responded to this was supposed to be 20. And, I think people respond well here too, and build business, build community around that business. Find people that are into it, and yeah, it kind of brings the whole thing up to a better level.
Yeah, thanks. I feel like the give first mantra, the give first ethos is really critical. Please.
On that note, I would like to say, just from hearing what my friend Jeff said about the previous, discussion like this, and then the turnout here, everyone that showed up today showed up because of you guys, and you bring so much energy and inspiration to the valley that if anyone could just bring a fraction of that to their everyday, it would be really powerful. So I think that you guys inspiring others and people doing that for other people is just going to grow from there. So thank you.
And I appreciate that. In 2 seconds, I feel like one thing that you mentioned, Jess, was that prospective entrepreneurs need to focus on not being fearful.
Collaboration.
Please.
Yeah.
You want to just talk briefly about that?
Well, I've seen that in other communities, come from a very entrepreneurial, city, which is Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's actually now like called the Silicon Valley of the Southeast because of their high-speed internet and other reasons for attracting a lot of young talent. But, what I see that's worked there and what I see as a challenge sometimes among people, I mean, I cannot believe that there's a single person living in Aspen that isn't like a genius, like a literal genius. Like if you tested their IQ, you just can't be a dummy and make it here. I mean, you gotta be smart. And so there's a lot of brilliant minds, there's a lot of great ideas, and I think that what happens is we get a little territorial over our grand and great idea, and we get fearful of collaboration. We think someone's gonna come in and steal it from us and run with it and do something with it that really we should have done. And I would just encourage anyone that has a great idea to just seek out some like-minded people and start to do that process of just bouncing that idea around. It's going to get better, it's going to get more refined, and you're going to end up with partners. And partners are just like the life's blood of any entrepreneurial endeavor. Nobody wants to be the only person doing something. I mean, like Gina was talking about the Aspen Yoga Society, that's a lonely place to be when it's a one-woman operation, right? And then when it starts to blossom and expand and you have all that support, and you have people that are like, well, when I set my eyes on it, I see it a little differently, or we could do it this way. I mean, it's huge. So I would say abandon your fears that someone's going to take your brilliant idea, and I know it's smart, and run away with it, and just open yourself to the possibility that someone's going to look at your brilliant idea and go, that's great, and I'm going to add this to it, and here's a guy that's going to give us $1 million to do it.
Yeah, and I would add that this is my personal opinion, that abandon all thoughts of an NDA. If you're passionate about something, just share it, socialize it, see if you can find a team, get a team together, get a minimum viable product, an MVP. No angel, no venture capitalist is going to sign an NDA. You're not going to lose anything. It all comes down to execution. So forget the NDA, please.
I was just going to go back to what Jess was saying in the beginning, like that routine. You know, in the morning, everyone can probably say, if you're stressed while you're getting ready for work, you're rushing, that's going to like set the tone of your entire day. If you just like cuddle with your child or do something, just like breathe, just sit there and just take in the day and be like, all right, this is what I'm going to do today. Like your day will be 10 times better. If you're looking for a job, you're going to go into workplaces with a positive attitude and they're going to want to hire you. I came from a small town in Kentucky. I understand. I brought myself out here. No one else brought me out here. I made the decisions that I made. I worked 2 jobs. I worked very hard at my 2 jobs. That's what you have to do. You have to be happy with what you want to do. And if you are, like minds will be around you and you'll just grow and blossom.
Yeah, totally. Do you guys know that in our community we have something called Our Community Listens? You guys all know about that? It's really an amazing thing that Bob Chapman and Cynthia Chapman have brought to our valley as far as it's a 3-day program on communication that is brought to us for free by them. It's a communication course. And you guys have, well, you're going to take it. You have taken it. I'm only friends with them. So I'm going to speak not as informatively as you guys, except for the fact that that idea, well, I know Bob because of the idea that everybody matters and like kind of waking up in the morning and starting a day of love and then infiltrating that into your workplace and then having that at your workplace and so that you infiltrate that back at home. And I don't know if that's exactly Our Community Listens, I don't know the fact that that's communication, but that's going on here. That's amazing. What?
Where exactly is it?
Please share, because you know better than I.
No, the deal is it's a sponsored program and it is amazing and it's word of mouth basically is how it's going. It's been going on for
This is word of mouth.
3 years and
I'm sharing.
gone through, about 600 people have gone through the program. And so they're trying to create a community of people who have these skills, these communication skills. And again, it's a 3-day course, it's completely sponsored, it's 100% free, but you have to show up for those 3 full days and then they throw you a dinner at the end. So it's a beautiful example. And you guys, you can contact me if you want to do it. I'll sponsor you or whatever. I'll send your email to the people, and then you get on a list, and then they invite you. So my email is gina@aspenyogasociety.org. If anyone's interested in that, send me an email, and I'll recommend you.
But you don't have to be special other than wanting to do it. Like that's
anyone can do it. It's just like they want people like. So I know.
Let's talk about why it's important. what specifically comes out of it?
Well, that's what I was getting at, is that they want to create a culture of people who have gone through the training so that we practice the skills and it sort of ripples outward, if that makes sense. And so that's why they tend to be word of mouth, because I went through it, and if I sponsor you, then they think, well, you guys are gonna talk to each other, you're gonna kind of ripple this, thing, and then
But the idea is the whole community
Eventually.
gets through it,
Yeah.
so.
Skippy?
Yeah, you know, you're looking for a bit of a more concrete construct around what you'll get out of the program. It's centered around an extended disc assessment, which is sort of like a Myers-Briggs, right? It's a way to understand how you process information, kind of where your vectors are on the goal orientation versus. And so what you learn in the class is not only about yourself, but you also learn how other archetypes process information. You learn how to communicate with them in a way where you're meeting them where they are. And I cannot give enough credit to this program for being truly transformative and bond building. Reach out to Gina, it's really amazing. And of the 18 people I took the class with, I bet you 16 of them will tell you it actually changed their life.
Yeah, and it's great, it's not hard. So it's like that idea of being of service. So this couple, they had the funds to do it, and they had a vision. And so it depends, like if you have a lot of money, there's a lot you can do, but even if you don't, there's still things that you can do on a small scale. And I think that's some of the point that we're making. We all come from different backgrounds, and I've lived on both sides of the tracks, let's say, and I would say that there's opportunities, I think, no matter where you're at. And the one thing I wanted to share is that there's a lot of scientific data that if you have a happy friend, you're going to be happier. And even if your happy friend has a happy friend you don't know, you're going to be happier. And it goes the opposite way. If you have a friend that is depressed, you're going to be a little bit more depressed. And if that person has a friend that's depressed, you're going to be more depressed even if you don't know them. There's like a collective kind of vibe. And so whatever you can do to lift yourself up is not only for yourself, it's about lifting up the community. So when you go to a yoga class or you do those self-care things, you are lifting yourself up and that ripples out into your community. So it's like, it's an act of service to take care of yourself and not to be walking around like Eeyore, you know, you're like, ooh, you know, and it doesn't, like it really rubs off and you're just like, and yet it kind of gets into you. And so, but you're around people that are just like radiant or popping, you know, vitality, then it rubs off too. So like we like to hang out together because we're just like, and
How's that going?
yeah, and if you guys want to hang out with us, we want to hang out with you too.
We like to rub shoulders a lot.
Yeah, the other people, I mean, it's all good.
All right, so I'm gonna respect everybody's time here. We're almost at 9:30 tonight, and I wanna say a couple things. We're gonna do a couple more questions from you guys. I know you have a couple announcements you wanna talk about, maybe upcoming programs. So I think we're gonna do a couple announcements, and then if anybody wants to make a suggestion about grabbing a drink together afterwards, and we're probably down with that. I don't know, I need a drink.
We're yogis too.
Justice?
Yeah.
Yep, so cafe's open, caffeinated beverages and food.
Yes.
Thank you, please support our supporters.
That's not problematic.
Yes, indeed, and then I guess if you want an alcoholic beverage, we'll meet at Justice Snow's. Please, if you have not signed this, we would love to stay in touch. Has anybody not signed it, they would like to? No? All right, nice job. And Aspen Entrepreneurs on Facebook, and I know you have some pretty cool shit coming up. We're gonna talk about that.
Oh, I think though about the email list, can we make a crazy suggestion that like if you put your email on it, like we would love to enter you in our community listens, is that fair or not? You can say
If
no.
you guys want,
I mean, they all showed up.
whoever wants to, I'm happy.
Yeah, so
Raise your
put
hand
your,
or whatever.
put your email on there, please.
I don't really want.
Not, yeah, thanks.
Delegation.
Why don't you talk
for
about-
entrepreneurs.
Can you talk about what you have to?
Well, again, I mentioned those 4 things that I'm involved with, and then I just wanted to put it out there. The Aspen Center for Living Peace is another organization we're trying to really bring that community piece together. We have a whole training going on next week for on meditation, and if you mention my name, I'm happy to sponsor you guys for the program. It's $195. It's a 4 or 5 day commitment. You know, again, write down my email if you're interested. That I mentioned before, and I'll mention it again. We have Sakyong Mipam coming, who's an amazing teacher. He's there March 12th. And then we're also sponsoring the program at the Aspen Institute on March 11th, Mind, Body, Spirit Series. So just a couple of things to keep on your radar. I teach a free yoga class for anybody who's wanting to like try yoga, get into yoga at the Shala, thanks to these guys, Wednesday mornings at 8:30. It's a great way just to get into the practice. And again, it's completely free. It's like this is an active service because for me, yoga is amazing. It changed my life. So like, let's share it. I mean, there's lots of stuff coming up with the things that we all talk about. Shala is amazing. You know, the Aspen Yoga Society, we'd love for you to be on our email list, and the Aspen Center for Living Peace, and all these different things. But we're around, and I think you can find me, I don't know, well, I don't know where you can find me, but you know my email, so if there's anything I can do.
Ladies, any particular events you want to talk about?
Just might have more specifics, but this is kind of a word of mouth thing, so it's a little special. For anybody who works in Aspen and has a pay stub that says that you work here and that it's hard to make it happen sometimes, you can come to the Shala for $12 anytime and take class. That's not something that we like broadcast because it's awkward between other people who come there and are paying $25 to drop in. But please spread the word and please come. It's $12 and you can bring your pay stub any class, anytime. And there's other free classes and $10 classes and all kinds of things. You can probably say it better than I can. But $12 is cool. Yeah.
Well, yeah, we have amazing programming at the studio. We have a teacher training program, we have workshops. We actually invest a lot in bringing people from way outside of the scope of this little bubble that we live in to help enlighten us on some new information, so check that out. But the main thing I would say is along these lines of like having a friend that's enlightened or happy and how that elevates you, I would say that has to work for entrepreneurs too. So thank you so much, Dave, and thank you, Skippy, for bringing together a group of people that have that same vision, because we are going to elevate each other that way by continuing to meet the first Wednesday of every month.
First Wednesday of every month.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So keep coming because you're only going to be.
All right, so we'll do maybe one or two more questions. How about one more question, and then we'll do a closing home. How about that? One more question. With someone who has not asked a question, has a very important question. Please.
Like entrepreneurs, if someone is self-employed, how do they don't have pay stubs to prove that they work in the area, and they are self-employed?
Oh my gosh, conversation. We will take your words. Come on, give me a line. Say what's up.
We were a lost station from last quarter.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, so please hit us up at Aspen Entrepreneurs on Facebook. And with that, one of the ladies gets to close us out here.
Come on, Gina, you started. Let's finish.
Exhale.
Thank you for coming.